I don't know about you, and this may be counterintuitive and kind of contradict what it takes to be a quote successful business owner, end quote, for what most people think. But I'm very risk averse. And it's what kind of led me into the business that I'm in now. I saw cleaning as a very low risk opportunity. It was a low barrier of entry, low startup costs, and everything just seemed very, very attractive from the outset. And I kind of knew that I didn't have a lot on the line. So when you go into business with that kind of pre-frame, a lot of the stuff that follows goes through that litmus test or that perspective. And so today in my business, I'm still very risk averse. And I know there's a lot of people out there who do much, much better than me. And the reason they do so much better than me is because they take on a lot of risk, right? That's just not really in my ideology of business. I don't like to take on risk. I don't like the idea of things like overheads. I don't want to go to sleep at night worrying about things. And so the way I run my business and my life allows me to get a good night's sleep. And it's from things to, paying tax properly, not doing the wrong thing. The way I set up my systems, I have contingencies and backup plans for everything, which is going to be sort of the main focus for this episode. But the point is, I'm very risk averse, and I think a lot of people listening to this might be as well. You may feel the same. You may not like the idea of risking cash, time, energy, whatever it may be. And that's completely okay. You don't need to put up a lot of risk to do well in business. Of course, if you want to go big, you need to put up a lot of risk and you really need to put the farm on the line. But I think to build a great business, you can do it with good intentions, not putting up a lot of risk and getting a good night's sleep. So if you're on board with that vision, as am I, then welcome aboard. But obviously, when you run a business, as we know, things are really unpredictable and things will spring up left, right, and center. And we can't really plan for this or expect things, but things just happen as we are very well aware of now. So every day things are coming our way. We get thrown curveballs in business and we kind of just have to play reactive and use our own intuition and experience and gut to react to these certain scenarios that pop up. So one big thing that I'm a big proponent of in business is having a lot of contingencies. Okay, you may have seen this word sprout up here and there, but basically a contingency is a backup plan. So it can be in any form of the business. It can be if you hire a new staff member, what is the contingency for if they don't work out? If you hire a manager like I've got, what is the contingency for if that manager were to leave or, God forbid, become sick or even pass away, things like this. I think very, very extreme. And, I like to always plan for the worst possible scenario, worst case scenario, but I intend for the complete opposite. Okay. So I plan for worst case, but I execute for best case, if that makes sense. So contingencies are a really big part of my business. It's what gives it a lot of value. It's what allows me to run my business in a way where I don't need to worry all the time, despite having such big responsibilities and liabilities and things on the line. And I strongly, strongly believe that a solid contingency plan is key. Planes are a really good example of having solid contingency systems, right? So, planes have a lot on the line. They've got a lot of passengers on there. They're 30,000 feet above sea level. And unlike a car where if something goes wrong, you just stop and you're on solid ground. If something goes wrong on a plane, you've got 30,000 feet to plummet to the earth. So, planes have several backup computers and like hydraulic control systems. And if something vital for control in a plane fails, there's always a backup to take over. And even if the backup fails, there's a backup for the backup. And in many cases, a backup for that. If there's a total electronic failure, like where the generators and battery systems both fail, there's a little device called the RAT. It stands for Ram Air Turbine, and that extends out into the airflow under the plane and generates electricity for vital systems. So you can see just how many contingencies a plane has alone. So you need to think of your business like a plane. Every day there's things that could happen that could cause your hydraulic system to malfunction. Your electrical systems could completely stop or run out or cut out. And so you need to have plan Bs in place to keep the plane flying. And you'll probably have a lot of subconscious things that you don't really realize that until you create plans for these and kind of put them into the back of your mind, you're not going to be able to function properly. You're not going to be able to sleep properly. And you're just going to be in a constant state of stress and worry, especially when you start to build a team. As soon as you take on people, aka liabilities, like people can be the most useful thing, or as I like to say, the completely most useless thing in the world. It's like the weirdest dichotomy. People are either your biggest asset or your biggest liability, and oftentimes it's both. So I like to try to make people as good as assets as possible rather than liabilities. And the way we do that is with contingency. So if we look at our team as one big unit rather than individual people who are all different and have different personalities and react to things differently and will do different things, we look at the whole team as one unit. Okay. There are several contingencies built into that team. Like if one person calls in sick, on average, they're working 3 days a week. So we know we've got a contingency plan on the basis that if someone calls in sick, we've got this whole roster of people who work 3 days. So they've got 2 free days a week where they could take on some extra work at a higher pay rate. So that's a contingency we have for people calling in sick. If a customer cancels on short notice, we have a plan where we've identified people in the team who are quite happy to take a break. They're not really reliant on the income that comes from the cleaning they do. So if a cancellation comes in, they're more than happy to take the afternoon off or the morning off and give it to someone else who needs it more than them. And it could even be as simple as if the power goes out at a clean, what's the plan B? If you can't vacuum and you can't use electrical stuff, then what do? Well, we could spend more time doing this. We could spend more time doing X, Y, or Z. You get the idea. And it can even be as straightforward as a Zoom meeting. We have a contingency plan where if someone can't access Zoom or it's not working, we just revert to the phone, right? That sounds really, really mundane and common sense, but that is the example of a contingency in its purest and simplest form. Now, things can get a little more complicated when we're talking about management. We're talking about replacing people. Okay, so we now in the business, we've obviously got Stacey, who's the operations manager. We also have someone full-time as basically Stacey's assistant. And so this person has been primed to take Stacey's role, and Stacey was primed to take my role. So you see there's like a bunch of dominoes where if one falls over, there's a plan in place where the others can stay up without knocking the others over. Because at a certain point, if you've got a structure where it's like that, where you've got one person at the top and no one else really knows what's going on, if that domino falls, all the other ones are going to fall with it. So we've now got a contingency and a plan B for people. So my plan B is Stacey. Stacey's plan B is this new lady, and we have supervisors under her who know a bit more than the average team member. And so there's always someone that can run day-to-day operations and can at least, at the very, very least, buy us time until we figure out what the next course of action is. And look, I wish it were as cut and dry as I'm kind of making it out to be, but unfortunately it's not. But what I implore you to do is take a look at your business from a bird's eye view, from a 10,000 foot view, and start to look at the different areas where you feeling anxiety and stress about, and start to think about ways that you can create contingencies and create systems and processes where if this fails, what is the fail safe, right? The fail safe is what we talked about with the planes. Like if the hydraulic system malfunctions, there's a fail safe for that. And if the fail safe fails, then there's a fail safe for that. That's the big secret. We just need more fail safes in business so we can eliminate risk and stress and worry and fly forward with more certainty and clarity. And I'll read you a little fictional story just to illustrate this point a little bit better. So stay with me. Once upon a time in a small town, there was a successful cleaning business called Fresh Start. Fresh Start was known for its impeccable service and attention to detail, which attracted clients from all over. The owner, Emma, ran a tight ship, but there was one thing she neglected: contingency plans. One sunny morning, Emma's lead cleaner, who managed the biggest accounts, suddenly fell ill. Emma quickly scrambled to find a replacement, but none of the other team members were trained on that client's specific requirements. The clients called, frustrated, as they found areas missed or not up to their usual standard. Some even threatened to cancel their contracts. Emma was left with no choice but to personally visit each client, apologize, and offer discounts to keep their trust. This incident cost her both time and money, and her business reputation took a hit. Afterwards, Emma decided to make contingency plans a priority. She cross-trained all her employees, documented detailed procedures for each client, and created an emergency call list. She also set aside a budget for sudden expenses like temporary staffing or repair costs. Months later, when a last-minute emergency hit, a cleaning van broke down and another team member fell ill, Emma's team was ready. The backup cleaner stepped in seamlessly and another van was quickly dispatched. Fresh Start kept its promise to clients without a hitch. The experience taught Emma that having a backup plan isn't just about managing crises. It's about protecting the reputation and relationships she'd built. Preparedness allowed Fresh Start to deliver consistent service no matter what challenges came their way. And so, Emma's business grew stronger and more resilient, not because it was immune to setbacks, but because she learned to face them prepared. In the cleaning world, as in life, readiness is the difference between a lasting business and one swept away by the unexpected. And I want to reiterate that last part there. Emma's business grew stronger and more resilient, not because it was immune to setbacks, but because she learned to face them prepared. And to put it in layman's terms for my fellow Aussies out there, you don't want to be up shit's creek without a paddle. So contingency plans just allow you to face things with more preparedness and to be ready for when these things happen. Because like that story, you can't be immune to bad things. You can't be immune to the trials and tribulations, but you can be more prepared for them. So take a step back, look at your business from a bird's eye view, and look at all the areas and identify all the little cracks that you can go in and seal up. So things like if you have lots of different clients with different needs, make sure you document all the different things that they need. Make sure you document, take photos, make sure lockbox information is all inside your scheduling system. Make sure all the specific requirements of the job are well detailed and put into checklists. If you have big accounts, make sure lockup procedures are clearly put in writing. Make sure you have backup plans for if people fall sick, and whatever other scenarios you can see happening or that have happened before. And I always tell people that business can be really simple. It's not easy, but it can be simple. And a large part of that simplicity comes from having these appropriate systems. When we talk about systems, it's such a blanket term for all these different things in the business. But a large part of having systems is just having these fail-safes and contingency plans. So whatever stage you are in the business, maybe this could be a big thing that you work on now, especially right now at the time that I'm recording this. It's November. We're heading towards the end of the year. And so maybe your big New Year's resolution can be to create contingency plans and to plan for the unexpected, but the inevitable, right? So if you're starting out, this may not be as important, but it's still something that you can keep in the holster and remember for later because like I said, these things are inevitable. It's going to happen and you're going to end up needing things like this with you. So it's good knowledge to have, even if you're not really at that stage where you need to worry about it. But if you are, then it's certainly something you should get onto. So again, I implore you to create contingency plans. Just have a look at your business from a bird's eye view and just start to identify all the areas where something can go wrong. And, Murphy's Law, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So rather than prolonging the inevitable and just putting it off and off because you're like, oh, well, it hasn't happened yet, so I'm just going to take my chances and I'll roll with the punches when it happens. Don't be like that. Be prepared, be vigilant, and you'll start to sleep a lot better at night as the business grows without all the risk. So that's all I wanted to leave you with today. It's a very, very important topic, but I've never seen anyone in the cleaning space talk about it before. And I feel like for us, it's even more crucial because we're a business that solely relies on people and reputation. So bear that in mind. If you're starting out, this may not be as important to you, but make sure you lock this up in your mind somewhere where you can act on it later on because this is super, super important. And if you're building a business now and you have a team and you're at that stage in the business where you want to grow to the next level, you should probably look at creating contingency plans or at least looking at the possibility of creating these things. So that's all I wanted to leave you with. Hope you found that insightful and I'll talk to you again soon.